Welcome to the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show with Larry Lawson. As a former career law enforcement officer and law enforcement educator, Larry focuses on the use of tried and true law enforcement investigative techniques in conducting paranormal investigations. Despite his experience and training, Larry also keeps an open mind to discussions on topics that deal with evidence that are not quite as physical in nature. Paranormal Stakeout guests are professionals in the field of the paranormal and parapsychology, conducting the investigations and research needed to further the cause of paranormal study. Larry advocates an agenda of standardization of structure and training in the field of paranormal investigation and research for the purpose of one day being able to produce the evidence needed to convince a jury of the existence of the paranormal. Whether it is ghosts, UFOs, unsolved mysteries, hauntings or cryptids, no topic is beyond the investigative reach of Larry Lawson and the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show team. Now, here is the host of the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show, Larry Lawson.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, coming to you from the headquarters of the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation and Indian River Hauntings in beautiful Vero Beach, Florida. And I'm wishing everybody out there happy holidays. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and you're going to have a great New Year. Make it positive, think positive, because there's just way too much negativity in the world. If you'd like to find out a little bit more about me and my team, you can check us out at paranormalfbi.com or indianriverhauntings.com. You can also check out our YouTube channel at Indian River Hauntings 2341. You can email me here at Paranormal Stakeout on the X Zone Radio and TV Broadcast Network by going to Ghost Guy at paranormalstakeout.org. And if you do that, send me some questions, your thoughts and comments. I would love to bring them up at the beginning of each show. So send me a note, say hi if nothing else, and we'll introduce you on the show. We have a lot of interesting guests in the show, and at times I just like to get back to the homegrown stuff, and that's what we're going to do tonight. Some of the folks that are in the field doing the legwork when it comes to paranormal research and investigation. Tonight I have Ron and Liz Reed. They they operate and head up Paranormal Society of Bradenton in Bradenton, Florida. That's on the other side of the state for me. Ron grew up in Indiana and has had many childhood experiences involving the paranormal. Liz grew up in Minnesota, and she herself lived in a haunted house. And about 14 years ago, they decided to expand their horizons and begin investigating the paranormal and formed their own team, Paranormal Society of Bradenton. Liz is also a staff writer for Bradenton Magazine in Bradenton, Florida. She is the author of Haunted Manatee, and that's talking about the haunts in Manatee County, Florida. She also runs the Downtown Bradenton Ghost Walk and Bradenton Beach Ghost Walk. So with that, I'd like to introduce my guests to you, Ron and Liz Reed. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Glad to have you on. We're going to like to start off with you, Liz, ladies first. Tell us a little bit about how you became involved in the field, became interested in the paranormal, and began investigating. How did you get there from a haunted house in Minnesota?
It started when I was 6 and we moved into the house that we lived in. And every night I would have a male presence right there. I couldn't see him, but I could always feel him. And eventually he ended up sitting on my bed every night. You could actually see the indentation and you couldn't move your legs. And then one night he made an appearance and I saw who he was. And I did some research as I got older and found out he was the owner of the house that built it. His wife had died and then he committed suicide because he wanted to be with her. So as you know, I always had a fascination for cemeteries, and I'd always go there and read books and have my quiet time there. But the more I got, the more I just got, what happens to you after death? So the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to do some, investigating on my own, to do things, just find out what people were saying is true or not. I wanted my own opinion. So that's
did you investigate it all prior to getting married to Ron, or did you guys
just a little bit on that house that we lived in? That's pretty much
okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay. And Ron, tell us how you became interested in the field.
It started when I was young. I would say, 6, 7. I had my first experience, but my one that I remember is walking from the back of my house to my mom and dad's business, which was down the alley a little ways, and I passed his house, and I knew it was empty, and I looked through the window, and my dog was with me too, and there was someone in the basement. And they were scrubbing. Back then, they had scrub boards, and a sink. And they were doing that. And I knew it was empty, but I ran around. I went to the basement door, opened it up, and there was nobody there. That was my first. And I had a lot of experiences like that. They were just short, one-time things.
How old were you when this first incident happened?
I was actually 7 then, maybe 8. The very first incident is when I was very young, and that was I had a play telephone, and it rang. I picked it up, and there was somebody on it, and it was my dad, and my dad had just died, and he told me to go outside, and I did, and my dog followed with me, and he took care of me. My dog did, and my brothers and sisters, I was the youngest, they all came and got me and brought me back into the house.
Wow, that's pretty significant. So you were young when your father passed.
I was 6.
Yeah, significant experience. So I know Liz is a writer. What do you do?
Me? I'm retired, and I hunt ghosts.
Oh, there you go. What'd you do before you retired?
I worked at a steel mill, U.S. Steel.
Oh.
It's now USX in South Chicago and Gary, Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so 14 years ago, you guys decided you wanted to kind of solidify what you were doing, and you formed a team. Tell me about your team.
Well, we have 5 active team members besides ourselves, and then we have other team members that can come in and out when they're available. We are like a little family. We try to make it a little family. Each of us has a specialty. Our tech guy is perfect in, analyzing and debunking things. We have somebody that's a sensitive that does seances for us. He's real good. We have 2 that, lead investigators that are really good. And then there's Ron and I.
Yeah. It used to be just me and her, but then other people really wanted to get into it. And we went through a lot of people. The team we have now, we've had for several years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ron, do you have a specialty yourself, or an area that you investigate specifically yourself, or a point of interest, I should say?
I take care of the equipment. All equipment's at our house. I take care of it. I help set it up. I stay at the base, and watch the monitors. I do have a disability now, so Liz and my team are the investigators. I just do the monitoring and letting them know what I see if I see something.
You do the heavy lifting. I got you.
Yeah, I don't do any of the heavy lifting anymore.
So, Liz, do you have a specialty yourself that you add to the team?
Yeah, I can feel the spirits when I walk in a place, and sometimes I hear them. Yeah.
Okay. So you're sensitive.
Yeah, and when James, our seance guy, and I get together, you have to watch out, because him and I can stare at a REM pod and actually lift the REM pod up or move it back and forth to each other.
You've actually physically lifted the REM pod to each other?
Yes.
Off the ground, about a half an inch off the ground. And then after that, then I'd look at it and he'd look at it and we'd stare at it and we'd just go back and forth. Like I'd send it to him, he'd send it back.
Have you ever caught any of that on camera?
No, our camera guy screwed up that night. Big time. I was so upset.
Somebody actually walked in front of the camera, the stationary camera. Someone was standing in front of it. The camera guy, because we have another camera that we use, night vision camera, he forgot to turn on the IR light. So you really didn't see nothing because it was dark. Yeah.
Well, and that's the way it always seems to go. Things happen when they occur. Have you ever wanted to recreate that? That would be a very amazing experiment.
Yeah.
So
when those two get together, it happens all the time with different items.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Him and I like to be doing things like that together. It's kind of cool to see what we can do, you know.
Well, I think that says a lot about one of the theories that I work with, and that's the power of the human mind. I mean, there's been so many experiments and things that have happened. Uri Geller, I don't know if you remember Uri Geller. He used to, back in the 70s, he was famous for bending spoons and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, the power of the mind is still not researched enough, and we don't know what it can do. I would really encourage you to set up a specific investigation, or during an investigation, actually film that, because I think that would be very powerful for the world to see.
Oh, yeah.
So
we've been trying to catch it. Yeah, you should see the video of the seance we did at our house here with him.
The door actually closed.
He asked the good spirits to come and the bad spirits to leave, and our garage door going into the garage from our porch opened up when he asked him to come in, and slammed shut when he asked him to leave.
You got that on film?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm excited.
That's on our Facebook page. And everything.
Okay. Very good. What about the backgrounds of the rest of your team? Do they have? I mean, I've got a lot of public safety folks on my team, for example. What kind of folks are on your team? What are their backgrounds?
Well, our researcher, that she does no investigating. She just does research. She's retired from the FBI. Jim, the gentleman that's so sensitive, he's worked with the CIA and helping solve murders and things like that. And he's worked just, different things he's done with them. And then Pam and Jamie, they just are normal, everyday job type things.
Yeah, investigators. Yeah.
And Brandon, our tech guy, is a marine biologist.
So he's got a science background.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's always helpful. Now, your FBI person, were they a special agent? Were they an investigator, or were they a
she
support
never will
person?
tell us. Yeah. She just says, I cannot do anything on Facebook or anything like that. And I've seen a lot of things that have been horrible in my life.
Interesting. And the CIA person helping solve murders, I find that interesting too, because normally the CIA
he does also remote viewing. He was in two wars. He was in Iraq and Iran with the CIA as a airborne ranger, and and he's retired. He's my age. He's retired.
Yeah. Well, very interesting. So you've got an interesting mix of folks, and it's nice to have a group that actually can come together and stay together. I know that my team, the team I have right now, has been together for a number of years, and that certainly is helpful. Well, believe it or not, folks, and this stuff goes quickly. We're about ready to come up on our first break. So when we come back, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your goals and your purpose, what you're trying to do as investigators. So think about that. And folks, stay with us. We're about ready to take our first break, but stay with us. We'll be back right after these messages with Liz and Ron Reed from Paranormal Society of Bradenton, Florida. So we'll be back right after these messages, folks. We are back on Paranormal Stakeout with my guests tonight, Liz and Ron. Liz and Ron Reed. Ooh. Bring forth there. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So tell me, folks, why do you do this? What is your goal? What is your purpose? What is your end game in doing what you do?
Well, I love history. And whenever I look in history, there's always some story, some legend, something. So it leads me to something. So I just I guess that's why I do my writing, is because it just keeps going with me. But I just like to just find out what really happens to us. That's all I really, want to know. I want to prove it to myself, that there is life after death. We're all made of energy. So where does the energy go to? And that's, what I'm trying to do with mine. And I just want people to understand that we're not crazy. Some people do think we're crazy.
I'm crazy, but
yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, we're all crazy in this world, but I mean, as far as being a lunatic running around, and stuff like that, we do this, and we're very serious about it.
Yeah.
well, Liz, you mentioned history there, and of course that's an important issue with me. Also, how do you see history connecting with your paranormal work? How do they work together, in your opinion?
Well, like when I'm doing research, just the preliminary stuff, I go back to as far as I can and see what I can find. And I just want to know what happened on that property or that house, or, ages ago. It could have been, from the 1500s, something could have happened. And then it's being made, active now today for some reason. And it just kind of brings the stories together for me.
Okay. Ron, how about you? What's your goal here? What's your purpose for doing this?
My purpose is like hers, but I like evidence, so that's where the science comes in. The meters, the tape recorders, the cameras, the digital recorders and digital meters. If you can get them to all correlate, to me, I have something.
Okay.
If they're all timed, because all of our equipment basically has SIM cards, and put them in the computer, and we know exactly when this happened, that happened, and yeah.
I use the EDI Plus. Do you use that piece of equipment at all?
Mm-hmm.
The EDI Plus. I use it for exactly what you described. Now, you mentioned evidence though, and the importance of it. What do you do with that evidence once you get it? When you've picked it up during an investigation, you've examined it. What do you do with it then?
If it's a homeowner, we take it to them, a few weeks after we go through everything, and we explain to them what we found or what we didn't find. And there's some cases we don't find anything, and there's some cases we find high EMFs. And I did a case not too long ago where it was all high EMFs. It was a veteran. He had a nice little studio condo, and he was going crazy, and they were going to put him on pills. And
what was he seeing? What was he experiencing?
The bottom of his bed sheets looked like there was an animal underneath it. His clothes would sway back and forth in the closet. He could see all this from his bed. It's a little studio. And when he looked into the bathroom, he has clothes hanging, and he could see the clothes in the wall like a wave.
And his TV went off and on.
Yeah.
And the TV,
And the TV would go off and on.
So you investigated, you found a high amount of EMFs in there. What did you end up determining happened?
Well, the headboard was, 40 EMFs, very high, where his head was laying. And there was an outlet down below. I took the outlet cover off. I looked at it, and I said, oh, my God, this wiring is as old as the building. And the building was built in the 20s.
Oh, my.
Yeah, one of the oldest condos still on the Bradenton River. Yeah, yeah, and but the condo agreed to fix the problem. So there.
But what was your conclusion? What was your conclusion on that case? Because I think that's very important.
My conclusion was he was hallucinating. He was hallucinating. I kept the camera on him all night until the next morning. I told him just hit the button, shut it off, and he said he saw his bed sheets, the bottom of them moving, and I said, there's nothing on camera. And I said, you're hallucinating.
Well, for folks that haven't done a lot of investigating, explain how those high EMF readings affected what he was seeing.
The high EMFs, you can look it up, you can Google it. It has a number of effects, and hallucinating is one of them. It messes with your mind. Just like these big towers they're putting up everywhere, and they say, be careful, these 5G towers or what have you. If you don't live near them, they say. That's
he was living in a fear cage, basically. The EMFs are causing him to hallucinate. It's been proven that high readings will create people, they'll feel paranoid, they'll see things, they'll experience things, headaches. So I
get the headaches when I am in my EMF area. Yeah.
But see, I think that is a great example of how your work has actually helped some. He understood when you explained it to him.
He's a very smart gentleman. You know, he's a vet. He's comfortable where he lives.
He was actually relieved.
He was relieved. You know, and once it's been about 3 months, but I'm sure they started working on the problems, because they said that they did something to the outlets, and they were going to do something with this one wall where it was 137, and I traced that wire with my digital all the way back to the fuse box.
But the important point here, I think, is you debunked it, you solved his problems, and it was nothing to do with the paranormal. And I think that whole issue gets forgotten about sometimes by teams that are so interested in finding something that they don't look at the obvious natural or man-made causes. So I applaud you for that. But what do you do with your evidence? Just so you've collected the evidence on a case, whether you've gotten something or you haven't gotten something, do you keep the evidence? Do you maintain it? Do you compare it with other cases at all?
We keep the evidence. We give a copy of the evidence to either the homeowner or the business or whoever, whatever place even if it's a public place, we still give them a copy of it. And we always compare, like, oh, wait a minute, this looks familiar. And we'll go back and look through to see if it's happened to us before.
Yeah. So do you store it on your computers or keep it?
Yeah, we have a backup. Yeah.
And we always get permission.
Yeah.
You know, we never go into a place without getting permission.
Yeah, they have to sign a release for it. Let us put it on.
So what do you tell folks that you can do for them?
Try to
when they come to you and they say, I've got a problem, like the referral I gave to you, I've got a problem. Can you help me? What do you tell them you can or you cannot do for them?
Well, usually I talk to them and find out what's going on, and we'll get with them and have them walk us through the house and see where the hot spots are. At the same time, we're carrying the EMF meter to see if there's any high readings, so we know where the high spots are. And so we do that. We talk to them, and then we'll say we can do an investigation to find out if there is something here and who it might be. We can offer to do a cleansing after or before if you don't want the investigation. But if it's something that's out of our realm of doing anything, we bring in a shaman, and he works with the house and the people and does whatever he can to get rid of it.
Okay. Do you do the cleansings yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah.
Where did you get the training to do that? Because a lot of folks do it, but they've watched it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And that worries me a little bit.
No.
I was trained by somebody that's a Wiccan.
Okay.
So she's actually one of our team members. So
yeah,
her, it runs in her family for generations. So she, her and I usually do it together when we do a cleansing.
Background. Okay, interesting. Liz, you were talking about the history in houses before and finding out what happened on the land. How often do you think that the manifestations, we'll just assume at this point you've not been able to debunk them. How often do you find that the issues are with the land and not the structure itself?
Maybe half and half.
Depending on where we're at.
I mean, if it's out in the country, like we've done some out in the country, and that definitely was land because there was an Indian burial ground and they built the house on top of it. And, so that was definitely, things like that. It's harder when you get into cities unless you can really get some background research on what happened around there. Mm-hmm. But we try to do our best to, like I said, I have the woman that, worked for the FBI. She does a mile radius research for, as far back as she could go.
Yeah.
And so we have something to go with, you know, and we try to keep it to ourselves, or I don't even tell Ron half the time what the report, and I don't even always read the report. I just wait till we get done and compare what her report is to what we found, and to see if anything matches up.
Do you ever, Ron, I'll ask you this question. Do you guys ever share with your teammates what activities going on in the house, or do you share with them anything about the history of the house, like who owned it, when it was built, things like that? Do you share that?
Brandon and Jamie, yes, but Jim and Pam, no, because they're Jim's the real sensitive. We don't tell him anything. And we don't, he doesn't come on all of our investigations. You know?
Why don't you tell him?
Because I want to see, I want to compare.
And he doesn't want to know.
He doesn't want to know.
He wants to be able to walk into a place and, like we say, cold turkey, and not know a thing about the place, and see what he picks up to see if it matches up with the history of the place. It kind of goes with like using the equipment, you know, like we have a tape recorder, we have the video camera, and we have 2 K2s all on one bar. So if we catch something on the video camera, we might catch it on the tape recorder, you know, so it gives you backup. And that's what he likes to do, is just to be able to back up what the history says by what he picks up on his own without knowing anything.
Now, when he goes through, does he stop and say, "Oh, I see somebody in that corner. Oh, I feel somebody up there on the stairwell," or does he keep it to himself and just maybe tell you?
He goes
through. We let him go through by himself first.
Yeah, he goes off by himself,
and he does a walkthrough. Then he comes back and gets me and says, "Liz, come with me," you know, and I go with him. And he says, "Do you pick anything up? You feel anything?" You know, and that's
We're about to take our next break. The hour's going quick, so folks, stay with us. We got more to talk about on Paranormal Stakeout with my guests tonight, Ron and Liz Reed. So stay with us. We'll be back after these messages. Welcome back, and my guests, Ron and Liz Reed. Interesting conversation. I do want to go back to our last conversation just for a quick second here. Mediums, the medium, the sensitive that you use. How do you think he does it? How do you have a theory or a thought on how they're able to do it?
Jim, I think, has been trained through everything that he's been through. That's what he did. He
was the remote viewer.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
he's a very quiet guy. Again, like the lady who does our research, he's not on Facebook. He's not anything else. He's not supposed to be. He found us on our page and just said, "I was brought to you." And that's how we met him.
Okay. Well, once again, we were talking about the power of the mind earlier in the show. The remote viewing angle is incredibly interesting to me, because it's not like that's just somebody came up with that idea. There's actually studies that have been done. Heck, our government has done it for generations, or decades rather. So interesting nonetheless. I had a problem with mediums early on. There's a gentleman particularly that I work with a lot that has kind of really changed my view on mediums, and it has also intrigued me and made me more interested in what the power of the brain can do.
Yeah.
And so that's all that's fascinating. But let's head down another little path here. I'm interested in where you think the world of paranormal research and investigation are heading. Where are we at? Where are we going? What are some of the pitfalls you see out there waiting for us?
The TV shows are the pitfalls.
Yeah, TV shows.
It's nothing like what
this is true.
Like 13 years ago, or 14 almost now, when Liz and I started, there wasn't too many people that were into this. Now you can buy everything on Amazon. You can buy everything on, eBay. Everybody's got a piece of equipment. They even bring it to Liz's Ghost Walk.
How often do you think these people really understand the theories behind these pieces of equipment and how they actually work? How often do you think they actually know?
Not very often. I had a 12-year-old the other night that for Christmas, he got the Ghost Walk and he got equipment. He got a spirit box. He got a REM pod. He got a tape recorder. He got a K2. Now, that's a lot of equipment for a 12-year-old. It's a lot of equipment for us. A lot of
money.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And he did not know how to do anything with it. He just opened it up that day, was playing around with it. So we played with it a little bit, but I told his parents, I want him to know how to use this correctly. So would you mind if some of our team members and I come over, take him to, they live out close to a cemetery, and just take him in there during the day with you and show him how the equipment works so that he understands it and can operate it correctly, you know, and not get excited, you know, about something that may be there and may not be there, you know. Or I just want them to understand how it actually does work. You know,
Ron, go ahead.
Go ahead. You know, another thing, you know, several times a year we give lectures at the local libraries, and we get like 35 people every night we're there. You know, and they want to know how to use the equipment. They want to know more about it. So there's a whole lot of people getting into this.
Well, then what do we do to solve this issue? Now, I have a particular theory. There's some of us, and all sides of it are fine, but there are some people that just want to do it for the thrill of the moment, and there are other folks that want to do it for the value of the research of it, to try to find the answers.
Yeah.
So how do we get folks to understand, first of all, what side of the fence they're on and how seriously they need to take the equipment? The training, that's the basic word. How do we get folks trained?
Well,
we take them, we train people.
Yeah,
we don't, you know, you have to go through 3 months of training before we'll even think about allowing you to be working with our team, because I want to make sure that if we're on an investigation and I hand you a piece of equipment because I've got something going on, I want you to know how to use that piece of equipment. If you're trained, you don't know how to do that, you know, and I want them to understand that you don't whisper when you're doing investigations, you know, things like that. My main thing is please don't ever take a tape recorder to the bathroom and leave it recording. We had that happen twice.
Yes.
You know, so, you know, right. So I just want them to really think about what they're doing and learn the equipment before we can say, okay, you're going to work with our team. Or, you know, a lot of people think it's just, you go out there, you do something and that's it.
Right. Well, how did you train them on the philosophies and the theories behind the equipment? For example, the spirit box, why that's supposed to work, and what? Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Our first part is when we have a meeting and they'll come, and I'll have all the equipment out, and I'll show them this is what you have to learn, from the tripods to the cords going to the DVR to the cameras. You got to know everything. Now, where are they? You got to know what box they're in. You know, they got to have a focused mind when you do an investigation.
Well, I'll ask this question of you, Ron. We're really kind of using the same equipment we've been for the last 15, 20 years. The equipment is all pretty much the same. What's it going to take to get to the next level? Now, I firmly believe that there can be a next level. I mean, people back in the 18th century never thought we'd go to the moon because we didn't have the knowledge and the technology then. Well, now we do.
Right.
So I think there's the possibility exists to evolve, but how are we going to do that? And what's it going to take to get to the next level? We're using the same equipment that we used 15 years ago.
I know, it's just different styles. There's so many different
styles.
Types of pods. It's all different styles.
Well, if you had, let me ask you this question then. If you had the ability to create a piece of equipment to prove or disprove a particular theory in the field, what would you pick? What would you develop?
Something with a voice box or digital recorder to pick them up better.
Yeah, because nobody really knows how those voices get there.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And you can always catch something on camera and, you know, people will say, oh, that's photoshopped, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, that is a problem today, isn't it? Because
it
people
is.
have gotten so good with that, and it's getting harder and harder. Now we've got AI becoming a part of everything.
Hmm.
How long is it going to be before nothing is being able to be proved or disproved?
I know.
And I think that is a huge concern,
Yeah.
which leads me down the next road. There's a lot of folks out there, and I personally have a bugaboo with folks that say they can do something and they can't,
Hmm.
or maybe they think they can do something that they really aren't able to. Maybe their heart's in the right place, but they really aren't trained, or they're just charlatans.
Hmm.
Have you folks experienced individuals in the field that have gone out and have tried to pull the wool over people's eyes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Quite a bit. Yeah.
We even had them in our group. We've been through so many members, the 13 years until just a couple years ago, and we really liked this group. They were out of this world.
Yeah.
No, you've got rules you have to go by, but I mean, out there, as we've had some groups, because I love working with other groups because we each can learn something from each other. There's always a technique that you do that we don't, and the same thing, that we do and you don't. So we can always learn something. But there are a couple groups out there that we've had issues with. One actually in particular actually told us the name of the group and everything, and it turned out they stole the name, and it caused us issues, but we had nothing to do. We didn't know it, But then there's the ones that say, oh yeah, I'm sensitive, I can come in, I can do anything. I found that if you have to walk up to me, immediately come out of your mouth and say, I'm sensitive, I want to work with your group, I kind of back off, because I find that most people that truly are sensitive do not walk up to you right off the bat and say that. They kind of keep it back. I don't tell anybody. When I go to a place, I do not tell them anything. I don't say anything. I don't let anybody, anybody know who's sensitive in the group, who's what, And I find that people, I don't know, some want to be on TV for this, so they call us, for different investigations. And some, just get a little crazy when they do their investigating, and then, like I said before, it's not like TV at all.
I've sat many a nights for hours, nothing going on.
Well, and that's an analogy I use. Paranormal investigations are like a police stakeout, and that's something I can actually discuss intelligently. And most of the time, they're boring. Yeah, boring.
Yeah.
Do you guys charge for your investigations?
No.
Not even.
What are your philosophies on that? Why don't you charge? Because that seems to be a new thing that's starting to crop up among some groups.
Yes, I see that some people are charging. I always felt that if you were a true paranormal group, you didn't charge because you were out there trying to help the people. It wasn't a job. It's something to help, somebody. And I don't, I wouldn't charge somebody for that. So that's our philosophy, is we are there to help them, not to make money.
No.
And
we're there for the science.
Yeah. Just
especially Brandon. Brandon is really big on science.
Yeah.
So,
and
I don't believe in charging for something like that. Now they can donate if they want, but no, we don't charge at all.
No.
You encourage donations.
We just tell them that if you want and you can afford to, you can donate. We don't force you to. Most people are at least a little bit generous, because they know we have to buy the equipment and batteries, of course, batteries.
We go through a lot of batteries.
Oh, I'll tell you, and it's getting more expensive all the time for that. I'm of the belief that any investigative team worth their salt, for the reasons you've described, would never charge for an investigation. So what is very briefly, in about 30 seconds, the most egregious thing you've seen happen out there involving teams, without using any names, of course?
Desecrating cemeteries.
Yeah.
Desecrating. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Desecrating cemeteries and going into places without permission.
Yeah, don't do that, folks. Always get permission. Trespassing is a crime. Well, we're about ready to take our last break, folks. And when we get back, Liz, want to hear about your book, and I want to hear about the ghost walks in Bradenton. So, folks, stay with us as we find out about the ghosts of Bradenton. Be back after these messages. And welcome back, folks. My guests tonight, Ron and Liz Reed. Want to tell you a couple things before we get on with the show. Check me out again at IndianRiverHauntings.com or ParanormalFBI.com. If you want to check out all my other shows, go to ParanormalStakeout.org. If you want to send me a note, ghostguy@ParanormalStakeout.org. You can get a hold of me there. Also, check out our YouTube at Indian River Hauntings 2341. But you guys are watching the show for a reason. You're watching it because you're interested in what's going on in this world and all the things that can't be explained. If you want to see more terrific broadcasts, more shows in this, go to xzoneradioandtv.com to look at all the terrific programming that's there. You will not be disappointed. So I encourage you to go ahead and do that. Getting back to us, how can we find you guys? Ron, how can we find your team?
You can find us at Paranormal Society of Bradenton or PSOBFL at gmail.com.
You asked the wrong one.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I was trying to get him in on it too. Yeah, it's a PSOBFL@gmail.com if you want to check out the. But Liz, you're a writer, and you've written a book involving or about the area that you're in, Manatee, Florida, Manatee County, Florida. Tell us about the book.
Well, I was contacted about writing, and I just started doing research, and that's how it ended up getting to the Ghost Walk too. I was working with the history library for the book, and I thought, well, this is pretty cool, you know. And once I started researching, and then I went all the way around asking stories and all that, and just gathered them up. And then there's some of from our investigations that are in there too, you know. But yeah, I just look through the history.
So in your book, tell us about some of the more compelling stories in Bradenton, Florida. And for those folks that don't know where Bradenton is, where is it located on the?
We're an hour south of Tampa.
Okay, so it'd be on the west coast of Florida, on the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
So tell us some good stories out of the book about Bradenton.
Well, there's a lot of them that, let's see, which one was it?
The Hampton Inn.
The Hampton Inn. It's a hotel that's downtown. It doesn't like to be known that it's haunted, but everybody knows it's haunted. There are some, I could stand there all night and talk about the place. It's got that many ghost stories. I mean, there's a lady in white that haunts the 4th and 7th floor. There's a little girl that they actually call Annabelle as a joke. That it messes with the building, and she's been there since the building was built, and that was in 25. And it's been a nursing home at one point. And then they had issues. They can always hear a band up on the very top of the building playing and people laughing and partying. Well, that doesn't go on nowadays. And even when it was a retirement home, it didn't go on. It only went when it was prohibition during at the hotel time. During the 20s. So that still goes on today, you know, and the little girl likes to mess with you when you're in the elevator. You know, she'll open and close the doors and won't let you go to different areas. There's a gentleman that walks in the lobby at 2, 4, and 6 a.m. jingling keys and whistling. There's just a whole lot of things that happen in that building.
Yeah.
So you'd recommend that hotel for anybody?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I always tell everybody, you go, you call me, I'll bring the equipment.
Yeah.
Okay. So all the stories there. What's your favorite story in the book? If you can share that with us. Yeah.
Annie's.
Well, yeah, we did do a story about a baker's husband that had passed away, and clear as a bell on the voice box, she went in the house and brought out a glass and handed it to Ron. And I said, Carl, can you tell us what Ron is holding? And out clear as a bell, it comes out and says, it's a glass. It was his glass that he had his scotch in every night. Yeah. And and so that was pretty cool that he was telling us that that's his glass. Yeah. You know, so
you actually got that in the book.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
So he was pretty active that night. Yeah.
So, you know, in addition to the book, obviously you just mentioned the book opened the door for you to start doing the walks. Let's see, it's the Downtown Bradenton Ghost Walk and the Bradenton Beach Ghost Walk. So you do two of them. How often do you do them?
I do them Tuesday through Saturday. When anybody calls and buys tickets, we go. You know.
Okay, so it's on demand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I just did one with the 12-year-old the other night, which I had a blast with, you know. And I do not make them scary because I like kids to be able to come. And a lot of times I'll have parents, they'll bring their kids and say, you know, and they're always talking about imaginary friends. So I thought this might be fun for them. And I always tell them, don't always think they're imaginary. They might be real, you know.
That's one solid common theory out there, that youngsters whose mind aren't cluttered with the world around us can see a whole lot more than we can.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So why do you do the walks? I know you got interested from researching the book, but what's your motive for doing it?
First off, that helps pay for equipment and batteries. That helps raise our money.
That's the true income of the Paranormal Society.
So that's why, you know, we don't have to charge or anything, you know. And the other thing is I want, because on my walk, I give them a K2 to work with in a couple spots and let them communicate with the spirits. I want them to get a taste of what it's really like, of what we do, so that they understand more of how it's done, you know, done on the investigation and things like that. And then I like just to tell them about, you know, the area. There's a lot of people that come that have, you know, live in Bradenton that don't know a lot of the underground history of Bradenton. So I find it funny when I'm telling them something and they're like, what? You know, I've lived here all my life.
I didn't know that. Yeah, there's some satisfaction to that. I can understand that. How often do folks experience things on your tours?
Usually every night.
Downtown
Every night. The beach one, I'd love to take you on that as being a retired officer, because I have one that is a spirit that is, she actually was supposedly committed suicide, but there's so much that's come out that her mother paid for private investigations. Like, she has the imprint of a wicker chair on her butt, but how could she hang herself from the shower head and sit on that chair after she's dead to get that imprint? You know, there's different things and it's really amazing, because when we get to her spot, I'll tell her, I'll say, Sheena, we're here tonight. You know, I send everything to your mom, and she always tells me to tell you that she loves you. And sometimes she will take the K2 meter and make it go off like a heartbeat. Instead of just lighting up, it will go off like a heartbeat. And it's really kind of neat. But I mean, I told her mom, I said, you know, there is in history that a ghost did solve their own murder. So if this helps, you know,
yeah, her mom,
I'll gladly give it to you, you know.
Her mom lives in Tampa, so she doesn't come down here too much. She's afraid to go over the bridge.
Oh, so this is a fairly recent murder. This is not an old historical one at all.
2001. Yeah. Yeah. That's what happened.
Yeah. So how you do them every day? Do you do them all year? And how often? How often? How many people do you take out a week? I guess is a great, since you don't have schedules. How many do you take out a week? And have you found, the other part of that question is, have you found that it's waxed or waned depending on time of year or interest?
School, September and August, September, forget it. It's quiet because everybody's getting ready for school and stuff like that. So it's quiet. And it's quiet at the end of the season for about a month. And then it picks back up because then the tourists for the summer come in. It just depends. Sometimes I can do none, and sometimes I can do, I've done 70 before in one trip. I won't ever do that again.
We have a lot of tourists here.
Yeah. So the most I take out in one group is 20. Okay. That's downtown because it's the area of walking. On the beach walk, I can only take 6 because it's a very small walk area. and you have to, you know, walk through the crowds of the people on the beach, you know, on the streets and stuff. So it's kind of hard.
And how long are the tours?
They're I try to keep them to an hour and a half, but sometimes when we're really getting a lot of activity, we may just go a little longer. Now, downtown, we just found a hot spot just recently, and we've got like 6 spirits that are talking to us down there. So it kind of makes it go just a little bit longer now, because we're all excited about trying to find out who everybody is, you know, and you know, where they came from. So,
well, how do folks find out about the walks? How do they contact you?
Well, they can Google Downtown Bradenton Ghost Walk, or they can Paranormal Society at wordpress.com, or they can give me a call at 941-704-0621. And that's, you know, they can book a ghost walk, and they can, you know, buy tickets online, and, you know, just have some fun.
And do people come away with a better understanding of the history of Bradenton and
yeah,
where it came from?
I actually had a gentleman not too long ago that said, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in any of this, but I have nothing else to do. I'm staying at the Hampton Inn, and I want something to do. So I'm just coming for the history. We did the whole tour, got done, and he said, I'll tell you this right now, I'm no longer a skeptic. And I said, okay. You know, so, I mean, you know, there's some come for the history, some come for the ghosts, some come for it all. You know, it just, or just to have fun with their friends, you know, it just, you know, so it's all kind of, I'm sure you know that too, you know, they all come in different ways.
Oh, that they do. How do the tours help you with your investigations? How do they enhance it? Do they have any effect on it?
Well, we get more investigations, because people will start saying things like, oh, we went on this ghost walk, you should talk to these people about your issue, and then they'll call us, you know, their friends. So we get a lot more. We do find that there are a couple places down there that we have one woman that she considers herself a witch, but she's not. She's more of a shaman from back in the day. And she travels around downtown. So we may be stopping at one stop, and she'll be there. And then the next stop, she might be there again. Or we might be doing an investigation in a building, and she might show up there. So it just, you know, they all kind of wander around, you know.
Yeah.
Well, folks, if you go to Bradenton, I recommend you check them out. Just Google Bradenton Ghost Walks and get a hold of Liz and Ron. Ron, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of history here. Bradenton was founded in the 1800s, so
yeah, there's a lot of history in Florida that people just don't realize. And folks, unfortunately, we're out of time. So I want to thank you very much for being with us. Thank you so much for sharing. And folks, enjoy the holidays. New Year's coming. Let's make it a good year. Let's make it positive. Pray for peace and be a good example to others to help perpetuate peace and goodwill towards others. So I wish you all a happy New Year. I hope you had a great holiday. Hug your family. Give those kids a big kiss. And until we get together again, I'll see you on the other side. Have a good night, folks.